City. The Lakers have a highly emotional game tonight in Dallas. It's the first return to Dallas for Luka Doncic after he was traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis on February 1st. Doncic played his first 5.5 NBA seasons with Dallas. His tune-up last night for tonight's game ended early. Doncic was ejected with 7 minutes left in the third quarter after getting 2 technical fouls. Doncic had 23 points and 5 assists before he was tossed. The Lakers and Dallas tip off at 4:30 on ESPN. The Clippers extended their winning streak to 5 with a 122-117 win over San Antonio at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. 24 points and 20 rebounds for Ivica Zubac. The Clippers moved into a 4-way tie for 4th place in the Western Conference with Denver, Golden State, and Memphis. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
No. Oh, yeah. I'm in chains, you're in chains too. Our uniforms and you are uniforms too. I'm a prisoner, you're a prisoner too, Mr. Jailer. Oh, I have fears, you have fears too. I'll die, but you self will die too. Life is beautiful, don't you think so too, Mr. Jailer?
KBLA Talk 1580. Welcoming into the studio, Senior Staff Attorney at the ACLU of Southern California, Melissa Camacho. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Welcome,
it's great
welcome.
to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. There's so much to cover and so much to talk about. Before we get all into it, I've noticed the ACLU is really reaching out right now a lot to get people in as members, not just appreciators or, bystanders, but actual members.
Right. There is a lot of work to do, as you can imagine, especially with this new administration and with things that have been going on in LA County for decades. So, yes, we're definitely asking people to visit our website, aclusocal.org, and there you can find a long list of ways to get involved.
Yeah. It seems like, we kind of, we're used to having the ACLU suing about everything. Around our rights. And it feels like right now some things we take for granted, whether it might be Black Lives Matter, whether it might be the ACLU, or whether it might be just our ability to leave the country and come back in without being detained, are all no longer things we can kind of take for granted. So I think, it's important for us to just tap in with that. And I figured there was a logic behind why I'm seeing this push.
Yes.
Here in Los Angeles, LA County, coming out of the massive protests of 2020, we saw some real concrete gains. We saw Measure J, Measure R, and, for those in other states, other counties that maybe aren't familiar, what it really comes down to is a move to what they call a care first model, or care not cops. Some people call it defund the police. It's moving money to things that we think keep us safer that are not law enforcement, right?
Right. The whole hope was to get the county to fully invest in community-based healthcare services and housing to really stop the jail as the place to put everyone who has needs of financial or mental health in LA County.
And part of that, maybe sort of the Sasquatch of our public policy initiatives, and that everyone talks about it but no one sees it, is the closure of Men's Central Jail here in LA County. That's been a goal for a lot of activists. I feel like it's something that's been talked about over the years, but really got more momentum, more support coming out of 2020.
Right.
And so after 2020 and after Measure R and Measure J, we started hearing from the LA County Board of Supervisors, who are over the jails and over the Sheriff's Department, that they were going to close down this jail.
Right.
Why do you think that they said that, and why do you think, obviously, that it should be closed down?
I think when the board made that decision to close Men's Central Jail without a replacement, it was after a big movement in the community to really educate the board and the community about what the county really needed, because this jail has needed to be closed for decades. It is a site of horrific human rights abuses on a daily basis. And the county originally had plans to build a new jail in its place that was going to cost billions of dollars. And so the community really came together and said, what we need is mental health care. What we need is housing. We don't need billions of dollars in a new jail. There's ways to divert people out of jail and out of the criminal justice system that are going to make our communities healthier, and building a new jail would take away basically the resources needed to do that. So thankfully, the board voted about 5 years ago that they were going to close Men's Central Jail without a replacement. Of course, today it's still open, and that was some of the reason for getting together yesterday as Justice LA. ACLU SoCal is one of the members of Justice LA, to hold a rally and remind the board that they made this promise to close the jail, to not replace the jail, and we really want to see a timeline for them doing that and actually making good on their promise.
I feel like, and it's interesting because I have the person who's supposed to be over the closure of the jail on tomorrow.
Oh, wonderful.
Just as fate would have it. It's interesting that I feel like they're not even calling it the jail closure team anymore. They're calling it something else. I can't remember what it is.
Right. They announced that yesterday, that they're now going to be calling themselves the Community Safety Implementation Team. And I can give a little bit of a history of what was, I guess, formerly JSIT, the Jail Closure Implementation Team. So on March 30, 2021, the various county bodies, including the Sheriff's Department, Correctional Health, Department of Health Services, the CEO's office, all presented a plan to close Men's Central Jail in 18 to 24 months.
This was in 2020 you're talking
2021.
About? 2021.
Yes. And they submitted that plan to the Board of Supervisors. And JLA and others, Justice LA, kind of demanded the board to put that plan into practice. One of the main portions of that plan was to build up over a period of years about 10,000 more community community mental health beds so that people could be diverted pre-trial into services instead of into the jails. Unfortunately, the board did not act on that report, and instead, in September, stood up the jail closure implementation team and said that this team would be responsible for figuring out how to put together all of the different reports that have been done over the last decade, and they would develop a plan. JCIT at that time did not really do much. In the year between when JCIT was started and then the next year, the population of the jail reduced by about 60 people. They really went nowhere. In the meantime, the county stood up another agency, the Justice, Care, and Opportunities Department, and decided to put JCIT under that umbrella. And we were concerned that this was, again, a deprioritization of the jail closure initiative. And again, they were not putting steps toward that plan that was given to them in 2021, and instead stood up yet another entity, JCOD. So,
which to be clear, because I'm really familiar with JCOD, is meant to provide alternatives to incarceration, support for, service providers. It wasn't stood up as a jail closure team. They just got assigned that.
Correct.
As part of their additional duties.
Correct.
Was there only one plan? I feel like there's been more than one plan presented at this board.
There were a lot of different, plans for that other previous jail and other plans about why you need to stand up different mental health beds in different departments. But there was only ever one, this is how we close the jail in 18 to 24 months.
Got it.
And then after a few years a year or so in JCOD, the board then took JCIT out after, again, pressure from the community saying that you're not actually having an entity that is 100% focused on jail closure. So they took JCIT out of JCOD now and hired a director, a new team. They've been on board for about 3 months now, and gave their first presentation yesterday. And unfortunately, now that we're 4 years out from the original report, they are having to do some more analysis and some more work to see kind of where the county is now versus 4 years ago. But I'm hopeful that the new director can make progress. I feel that the report that was given to the board was, very robust. But I think it's still going to come down to, is the county willing to put the hundreds of millions of dollars necessary into funding all of the different diversion programs, all of the different community service beds, in order to actually get us to jail closure?
Yeah, I got a lot of questions about this. It's actually something I've been paying attention to, and I think we all should be paying attention to it, particularly in the era that we're in right now. Can't wait to dive a little deeper. What is it that Justice LA wants to see? What would it take to get there? Is this even a realistic goal at this point? Melissa Camacho is with me. She's a senior staff attorney at ACLU of Southern California and part of Justice LA, which is a coalition of folks that, among other things, would like to see Men's Central Jail, the notorious Men's Central Jail, shuttered once and for all. More straight ahead on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power. Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting. On Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominique DiPrima, Nee Cordelai Corte, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate Day 100 since the wildfires flared up. And we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 Days and Counting Town Hall, Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. The first 100 attendees will receive a complimentary air purifier. This is a community call to action brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Ow.
Sweetie, come here. Don't worry. I see a lot of patients with the exact same thing.
Ever since the ice skating rink went in next door,
Or is it more than
Dr. Clark's business is heating up.
So many patients need my help. How will I find time to see all of them?
They need to hire a scheduler, stat.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney Melissa Camacho is with me from the ACLU and Justice LA. Justice LA, made up of a number of different organizations that, among other things, would like to see Men's Central Jail closed. And I think, well, first of all, what does that look like for you? What does success look like for Justice LA? What would happen?
Well, overall, the jail is gone. The jail is gone. The building is razed to the ground, and instead what we see is people getting help in their communities where they need it and not being taken out of their communities into this place that really causes an extreme amount of trauma for the thousands of people who rotate through there every year.
I sat through a hearing at the Board of Supervisors, and I say sat through because that bad boy was long and boring.
So long.
But it was also interesting. It was when the jail closure was under JCOD, and they were laying out the steps that were needed to close the jail. Okay, so the reason I'm laughing is because it sounds great. Close the jail, knock the building down, and get the people help, right? Sounds great. But when you talk about LA County, you're talking about, a behemoth, this massive lumbering bureaucratic entity, right? Bigger than most countries. And then when you talk about closing a jail, you need mental health, you need the health department, you need the sheriff's department, the board of supervisors, the heads of all of the departments within the county, pretty much, are going to have to make this happen. It's not like you or I can just go in there and say, close the jail. Okay, it's done. Oh, not to mention the judges, because the judges are going to have to weigh in on those people not being in that jail, right? So is that even a realistic undertaking at this point, given that we now have a Republican, independent, air quotes, DA who is, going to be putting more and more people in there, and the fact that the public has apparently turned very fearful around smash and grabs and passed stupid things like Prop 36 and not passed, Measure 6. Like, is this, is there a reason why it's now the, what did you say, community safety implementation team? Or is the county de facto giving up? And are we being idiots to think this can even happen?
Not at all. I really don't think so. One thing I will say, yesterday, that the director of now the CSIT did say that the number one goal of CSIT is closing Men's Central Jail without a replacement. And the Board of Supervisors echoed it. And so it is our responsibility, of course, as residents of this county to hold them to that promise. But that is still stated as the number one goal. And the amazing thing about that Men's Central Jail closure report in 2021 is all those folks that you listed, they were the ones who put it together. Like, they were the ones who signed off on it.
Yeah, but we all know that what people were signing off on and agreeing to in 2020 seems like 100 years ago. I mean, these corporations pledged billions to end anti-racism. Now they want to fire everyone and pretend it's DEI. It's like we've gone into an alternate universe.
Right. But none of them have explicitly disavowed, like saying that this is no longer what our goal is.
Okay.
So it is different in that respect, where I feel like in a lot of other areas, like DEI, everybody's rolling back and saying, like, that is not our focus anymore. There's nobody that's saying Men's Central Jail should not be closed. Everybody knows it has to happen. So then the question is, then what? Right. So in the past,
and that's a huge question too.
And in the past, the consideration was a new jail, but again, billions of dollars in a new jail or hundreds of millions of dollars in diversion programs that can bring that pretrial number down. Because again, Men's Central Jail and the entire LA County jail system, 60% of people there are pretrial.
And that, for people who don't follow legal jargon, means you haven't been convicted yet.
Exactly.
You're being held because you're suspected of a crime.
And you cannot pay your bail.
So
if everybody was rich enough to pay their bail, then there wouldn't even be, you could close multiple jails if everybody could pay their bail. But because people can't pay bail at the level that it's being set, that's why we have the 13,000 people that we have in custody.
The 13,000 is that number. That number is inclusive of
all of the jails. So all of the LA, the 7 LA County jails. So again, 60% of them are pretrial. About 40% have some significant diagnosed mental health need in the women's jail, quote unquote, because there are some trans men there as well. But that number goes up to 60%. 60% of the people who are held in the women's facility have diagnosed mental health needs. And again, most of the folks in the jails are only there because they can't pay bail.
My understanding from the report I heard that day is that most of the pretrial folks were now out of Men's Central Jail. And that what we're mostly having are people that judges may not want to let out into a diversion program that isn't locked, that isn't secure, that is, community run and outpatient, for lack of a better word.
So a couple of things. They are still mostly pretrial in Men's Central Jail and mostly have a bail set. But also the plan to close Men's Central Jail isn't just to get, again, everybody out of that particular facility. We have 7 different facilities. So, for example, there are large dorms in Men's Central Jail with people who have mental health needs that are kind of not at the highest level. Those folks are generally in Twin Towers, so it's lower level mental health needs. And the Board of Supervisors and Correctional Health, everybody has said, this is not a place where you can hold people with any sort of mental health needs. Not where you can hold anybody at all, but it's particularly traumatic for people who are trying to, get through with a mental health disorder. And so the plan is to move those folks, for sure, outside of Men's Central Jail, but they're prime candidates for diversion. And one of the main places in the county that diversion happens is the Office of Diversion Reentry. Judges really have a high level of buy-in to the Office of Diversion and Reentry. But for the last at least 2 years, it's been closed to the people at the lower levels of mental health needs. Basically, only people from Twin Towers can get diverted into ODR. So even though there's people in Men's Central Jail who are less ill and have these are, about the same types of charges. They're pretty much fungible in the dorm areas, and these hundreds of people. I think it's 300 or 400 people, but they don't really have places to go because those places haven't been funded and built up in the diversion program. So that's an area you can target. But also the original plan that I was talking about back in 2021 was to focus on diverting, at least as a first step, diverting, again, that's 60% of people in the women's facility who are there with diagnosed mental health needs, focus on diverting that population and women, TGI folks, and transgender intersex folks. And then there's two towers in CRDF. One of the towers would be converted into men's housing. And so then some of the folks that, again, the sheriff's department says, we can't house these folks anywhere outside of Men's Central Jail. You can. You just have to divert people out of CRDF, the Central Regional Detention Facility, or outside of North County Correctional Facility, where they do have those types of kind of more high classification, high power housing.
Let's go to Eric calling us from Carson. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Dominique.
Welcome. What's on your mind?
Hi. I just want to say also good morning to your guest. I couldn't catch her name.
Good morning.
That's Melissa Camacho, Attorney Melissa Camacho. Welcome.
Okay. And so I just wanted to say I have, never been to jail, thank God, but I've had a family member very close to me who has, and I know that there has been discussions about bail reform, which I think is something that should be a hot ticket item. The biggest issue is, these judges are not being fair with people who are being charged with crimes and trying to get out on bail. They hold them with not a lot of justification, but I also think that, my safety is important, and people are committing crimes, and if you don't hold people accountable, if there's no check and balances for people, then nobody is safe. So I think that the people who are most affected by, who are incarcerated pre-trial are people of a lower class level.
Yep.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was agreeing with you. We've got a minute until news, traffic, and sports. I want to get a quick response, and then we can go a little deeper after that, if you like. Eric, your thoughts?
Sure, I agree completely. And I think, the bail's being set too high. If somebody doesn't have a place to live, they're not going to be able to come up with $10,000 bail. And $10,000 is low, $20,000 is low, $50,000 is considered low by the courts, I should say, low by the courts, and then incredibly high if you don't have a job, if you don't have a place to sleep. And so, people are being punished for not having funds. And I will say, as far as, kind of the deterrence effect or the safety effect, the average length of stay in the jail is not very long. There's 13,000 people in there today, 100,000 people go through every year. So it's not like it's prison where people then, after they go to trial or take a plea, then go and serve a sentence there away from community, hope or with the stated goal of rehabilitation. We talk about that, of course, but it's a quick traumatic stay, and so you're just traumatizing people and turning them back in communities, and that's one of the things that's making our communities less safe. You're tearing people away, hurting them, and then sending them right back.
We have news, traffic, and sports, then more on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The Trump administration is reportedly freezing nearly $2 billion in funding for Cornell, Northwestern, and Princeton universities. That is due to accusations of racial discrimination related to diversity efforts. Asian markets are falling as President Trump stands fast on steep tariffs on all Chinese imports. Trump's global tariffs went into effect just after midnight, including a Chinese tariff of about 104%. The People's Union USA is organizing a national economic blackout from April 18th to the 20th to protest corporate exploitation and political corruption. The group urges consumers to avoid major corporations and shop locally. They oppose rollback of DEI initiatives at retailers like Walmart, Target, and Amazon. And Meta announces new safeguards for Instagram to protect teens. Teens under 16 will need parental permission to use the live feature and to turn off the nudity blur in DMs. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers have to regroup in a hurry after a demoralizing loss Tuesday night at Oklahoma City. The Lakers have a highly emotional game tonight in Dallas. It's the first return to Dallas for Luka Doncic after he was traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis on February 1st. Doncic played his first 5.5 NBA seasons with Dallas. His tune-up last night for tonight's game ended early. Doncic was ejected with 7 minutes left in the third quarter after getting 2 technical fouls. Doncic had 23 points and 5 assists before he was tossed. The Lakers and Dallas tip off at 4:30 on ESPN. The Clippers extended their winning streak to 5 with a 122-117 win over San Antonio at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. 24 points and 20 rebounds for Ivica Zubac. The Clippers moved into a 4-way tie for 4th place in the Western Conference with Denver, Golden State, and Memphis. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Dominique DiPrima, and it's almost time to celebrate KBLA's 4th anniversary, coming up Juneteenth 2025. We'll be marking the achievement with 4 key community events, including a special symposium, luncheon, and brain trust hosted by me entitled The State of Black Women in Los Angeles. Keep it locked here for details on how to join us for this groundbreaking symposium examining the unique challenges, triumphs, and contributions of Black women in Los Angeles in the areas of education, healthcare, community leadership, cultural and political contributions. This public convocation will provide a critical forum to address the specific social, economic, and political realities facing Black women in LA today. We'll go live with a radio broadcast and YouTube live stream, a public discussion, and a private dialogue with some of LA's most impactful women. It's an affirmation of Black women standing at the intersection of race and gender in times of adversity while demonstrating remarkable resilience and leadership. We will listen and we will speak out and be heard, all in service of finding opportunities and solutions. Please plan to join us in celebrating our 4th anniversary by amplifying the voices of Black women. For more on our symposium and 4 events celebrating 4 years on the air, simply stay tuned or keep an eye on KBLA1580.com and help make this Juneteenth more jubilant with all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
After producing an award-winning climate justice campaign in 2024, KBLA Talk 1580 has gone all in on its 2025 Climate Justice plus Black Health Initiative. April is Minority Health Month, and Urban Family Focus in partnership with Providence Health Systems presents The Heart of the Matter. Providence doctors and health equity officers will participate in informative and life-changing conversations on hypertension, health equity, behavioral health, and community engagement. Don't miss these empowering conversations on Urban Family Focus every Saturday in April at 7 and Sunday at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Sponsored by Providence, Southern California's largest and most comprehensive health care network. We've got a lot to talk about on KBLA Talk 1580. Download the KBLA 1580 app or log in to KBLA1580.com. I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. On KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Justice LA and ACLU, Melissa Camacho is with me. She's a senior staff attorney there at the ACLU of Southern California, talking about this sort of endless goal that we've been hearing about. Well, I mean, we could trace it to 2020, but it could be a lot earlier than that, because I remember reading that the first conversations about closing Men's Central Jail were much with decades before this. But now, as you pointed out, there's a whole team that's been hired that's supposed to be just focusing on closing the jail. And, you know, my questions around whether or not it's even possible in this environment also, taking into account, what expected uptick in arrests and such. You were saying, well, but these aren't prison. This isn't prison. This isn't where people go for long term. And you were talking about moving people out of Men's Central to other facilities that are able to handle these folks with mental health issues. What about regular health issues? I know, inmates that require, or imprisoned persons that require health care.
Yes.
You can't just send them to an outpatient community-based organization, right?
Right. It needs to be programs that have the ability to care for people medically. But I would be hard-pressed to say there's one of the worst places in LA County you could receive care is in the jail system. Like, it's horrific.
Yeah.
So I think any place outside is going to be an improvement, and likely a lot cheaper too. But we have one of our 4 cases against the LA County Sheriff's Department and the county for conditions of people who are detained or who are held there is a case called Johnson, and it's for people with mobility disabilities, so who use wheelchairs, walkers, canes, and they're not getting in to see doctors. They're not getting into physical therapy. They're putting requests in and getting denied, or it takes months to get to see a doctor. Maybe they get a piece of paper that says, here is some physical therapy that you can do in your cell. Which
because of the challenge of moving them?
No, just because of the sheer numbers of people who need to see medical staff every day.
That's insane. Okay, so Eric, called from Carson. And Eric, you were also talking about your safety. And there's this perception that if we close the Men's Central Jail, people will be less safe. Is that what you were kind of saying?
Yes, and I have something to say. I'll make it real quick if you allow me.
Yeah, just go ahead and do that then. Go ahead and land for me.
Okay, so the answer is the mentality of the people who are committing crimes. And, Ms. Camacho talked about the trauma that people go through when they have that experience of being incarcerated, while they're waiting trial. And I think the trauma is unavoidable. And I think that the one thing that has kept me from going to jail and committing crimes is that I don't want to go through that. And so the fear
really?
of that...
So you're a low-key criminal, Eric? The only thing keeping you out of jail is the scary tales of Men's Central? Wow, okay. Well, all right, so we'll talk about that.
If I could just say one last thing?
Okay, real quick.
Okay, I'm sorry. And so I say that the reform should be not about money. It should be about your personal, the crime you commit, your history, and your individual circumstances.
Okay, understood. But right now we're talking about a jail that in itself as a facility is inhumane. So, talking about prisoners' mentality and what is deterrence and what is not deterrence is interesting, but what we're talking about is human rights. You might as well send people to El Salvador where they're going to get starved and tortured. If we're just going to say anything goes if you have a criminal mind. I think that those are kind of separate conversations, but maybe I'm wrong. Attorney Camacho?
No, I think the stories that are coming out of Men's Central Jail every day are horrific. The number of people who have their fingers amputated in the gates is really astounding. We get multiple intakes a year.
In the gates, like in your prison cell?
Yes, because the gates in Men's Central Jail are so old, you have to open them with a hand crank, and some of them are stuck. And so a very, very frequent problem is people getting their fingers stuck in the gate and either badly injured or amputated.
Wow.
And, biting down on rat claws in their food. I go into the jails. One of my colleagues goes into the jails. She had somebody who'd saved a dead mouse to show the next person who came along, that to offer proof, of the infestations, in Men's Central Jail.
And we've also seen an uptick within the county system of folks dying in custody,
yes.
right?
Yes.
What is that about? What's going on?
It's lack of medical care. It's lack of mental health care. It's the quality of food. It's the inability to get effective exercise, and some homicides. 16 people have died this year already in the
first
jails.
3 months.
In the first 3 months. Every 6 days or so is the rate that we're at. That's the highest rate in the last 20 years. And we're at a lower total population. So that's at about 13,000 people. 20 years ago, there was more like 20,000 people. So we have fewer people dying more in the jails.
So more deaths per capita, as they say.
Exactly.
But so this is one of the things that your coalition, Justice LA, is calling for, some kind of action around the in-custody deaths. What would that look like?
The very first thing that needs to happen is that the Board of Supervisors needs to put in-custody deaths on their agenda. They need to take some sort of responsibility for this rate of deaths and show the community that they're actually willing to do something about it. As an example, the last time this was on their agenda, which was probably a year or two ago, they asked what can be done about overdoses in the jail. And what the Office of the Inspector General and other folks have raised is that deputies and healthcare staff can go into the jail without being searched. And so the call has been to search people who are coming into the jails. They're the ones who are most able to bring things in from the outside, and the Sheriff's Department has been completely unwilling to do that. They've said, well, we have dogs, that sniff a few people every once in a while. They half-heartedly put up some search stations that, I've walked by a couple of times, in the last year. But there's been no commitment from the Sheriff's Department to actually search the people who could be coming in to bringing drugs. There was somebody arrested, a deputy, for bringing heroin into North County Correctional Facility.
I saw that. That was crazy.
Yes. Yeah. And in Riverside County, you can't say that counties are that different. In Riverside County, a deputy was busted for bringing in fentanyl. So the most likely source are the people who get to come and go every day, and they're refusing to search. So the county needs to figure out some way to put pressure on the Sheriff's Department. They also need to find some way to put pressure on Correctional Health Service to explain how to fix the problem. If the healthcare problem, is fixable, how to fix it. Again, closing Men's Central Jail is the most, eventual way to fix that. But you can't just say, well, in 5 years when the jail is closed, then fewer people will be dying. You need to do something now.
Yeah. It was great news to see Waukesha's law passing out of committee in Sacramento yesterday. That would require family notification if someone is killed in a jail, California jail or prison, or harmed. We'll see if it passes the assembly. I've been shocked at how many families I've talked to whose loved ones were deceased, unalived inside a jail, and they never heard anything ever. It's something that seems like it should be. You shouldn't need a law for it. That you would automatically, oh, whoops, we killed your loved one, or someone killed your loved one, but that's just not the case.
Right. It is a requirement in LA County, and of how many loopholes and kind of people fall through the cracks is another story.
Right, or how long they take to get around to it.
Exactly. And a new family assistance program was put into place kind of gradually over the last couple of years. It's underfunded, of course, but it's putting the requirement to notify the family, or at least the people who are doing it are now no longer Sheriff's Department officials, and instead, I'm forgetting which mental health department. So people perhaps more qualified to have that initial, very difficult conversation. And there should be money in there also for helping people with the expenses. But especially for funeral expenses, that the money that is allocated runs out very fast every year. As you can imagine, there's 16 people, 16 families this year so far who've been devastated, and there's just not enough money in that pot to go around for everybody.
Talking with Melissa Camacho of Justice LA and the ACLU, talking about closing Men's Central Jail and all the issues that surround it in this climate, in this environment, right now in America, in Los Angeles, in California. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Shaka Khan, Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, Stephanie Mills. The BPC presents The Queens, 4 Legends, 1 Stage Tour. Shaka Khan, Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, and Stephanie Mills. The Queens, 4 Legends, 1 Stage. May 11th at Kia Forum. Tickets available at Ticketmaster.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Barbecue season is back. Hey, it's Ellen.
And this is Sarah Beth.
And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Smokehouse Barbecue Bacon Sandwich is that zesty barbecue sauce. I love that it was a little sweet, a little tangy, and with the mac and cheese,
I feel like I tasted the brown sugar bacon first. It was the absolute best combination. Pro tip, 3 sandwiches are always better than 1.
Order the Smokehouse Barbecue Bacon Sandwich and our Coca-Cola on the Chick-fil-A app for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Right now, talking with Melissa Camacho, senior staff attorney for ACLU and a member of Justice LA. If people are hearing this and they're like, yeah, we need to close the jail, we want to be part of closing Men's Central Jail and get involved, what would they do?
I think the best thing to do is go to the Justice LA website, which is justicelaNow.org. You can sign up to join as an individual, or if you're part of an organization and interested in getting your whole organization involved, there's information on how to do that as well. There are newsletters, there's virtual actions. Almost every time there's a Board of Supervisors meeting where you can get information on what's in that meeting and how you can respond and join really hundreds of other people and making your voices heard before the Board of Supervisors.
And we say that because the Board of Supervisors is over the Sheriff's Department, over the jails,
yes.
In the county of Los Angeles. When we talked earlier about bail, there was a lot of concern last year with the new bail schedule because people said, oh, they're just going to let I don't know if you remember the rapper 50 Cent said, oh, now it's on. All of LA is going to be a chaotic crime spree.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I disagree with that, of course, because, again, all bail is saying is that if you can pay, you can get out. So
Right.
anybody who can pay can still get out. And it also doesn't mean that you don't have a trial date. It doesn't mean that your charges go away. You're still at risk of prison sentences.
Right, and obviously it's not impacting everyone if folks are still in jail because they can't pay bail, because it's at the discretion of the judge, if I'm not mistaken,
Right.
as to whether or not that person is going to have what their bail is going to be, and what whether or not they have bail at all.
Right.
Yeah. Just a matter of clarification. I was thinking about that partly because of Eric from Carson, who called earlier, and these perceptions about what happens when we go to a care first model or alternatives to incarceration, or no bail at all,
right,
in terms of public safety. When we talk about closing Men's Central Jail, the community has been really adamant that there can be no replacement.
Right.
Why is that important?
For two reasons. First, the replacement would be so incredibly expensive that then you're just putting money into another jail that's going to ultimately not fix any of the problems that we have in LA County, and eventually going to make things worse, because we know you can't get well in a cell. Your mental health needs are not being met. It's still, a cage for people who could be getting treatment outside of jail pre-trial. And what we've seen over and over again in LA County is that you build a jail, it deteriorates, and then you try and build another jail. You just can't build your way into kind of what we want to see in the community without investing in community mental health instead of investing in a carceral facility.
Right, and I mean, I think it's a disingenuous Republican talking point that somebody's making in the chat, that that means all persons for any crime, even murder, they have the option to walk. No, that's not how the bail schedule works.
Right.
The judge decides, and the judge is not letting people with homicide charges walk. That's not what's happening.
Right.
It's not even close to what's happening.
Right.
So, don't just say things to be saying things. So when we talk about the closure of the jail with not building anything in replacement, not even a hospital.
And not anything run by the sheriff's department. Anything run by the sheriff's department is a jail. So if you want to build a hospital that's run by health staff, sure. But if it's run by the sheriff's department, it's a jail.
Whatever, no matter what they call it.
Right.
And so then is there no concern that there may not be enough places for these folks?
No, because there have been many reports, one of them by the RAND organization, saying that about 60% of the folks in jail could be successfully diverted. Again, this is pre-trial. This is with community supports, and then the whole hope is that you're stopping this churning. 100,000 people go through every year into those. In right now, 13,000 people or so. We want to stop that cycle, and you don't stop that cycle by just continuing to throw people in jail. You stop that cycle by getting people into stable housing, by getting people into mental health care and getting their needs met. And if the county is putting billions of dollars into a jail, they can't put the hundreds of millions of dollars that are needed to make our communities safer and healthier.
So what would you say? I mean, what would you say are next steps for Justice LA, for the LA County Board of Supervisors, and for the concerned citizens of LA?
Right. Well, for the concerned citizens of LA and JLA, and I hope that it's about the same thing. We want the Board of Supervisors to be, number one, accountable for what's happening in the jail today. So we want them to put the jail deaths on the agenda, give the community a place to hear what is happening in the jails, what the Board of Supervisors is going to do to stem the tide of deaths there, and to put pressure on them to already start funding these diversion programs. The JCID is, I'm sure, going to tell them that that's what they need to do, so they need to be preparing how to do that immediately. I think another thing to do is to keep an eye on the population level in the jail. I think you'd mentioned earlier Prop 36.
Yeah.
It is really concerning what is already happening with Prop 36. I believe in the report yesterday that JCIT gave to the board that they said that in December there were 12 people in on Prop 36 charges, and that in a particular day this past month that was about 400 or so people. The population has been steadily rising for the last few months. It had gotten down to about 12,300, and now it's just about to break 13,000. And that's really concerning, both, showing the impact of Prop 36, but also for the conditions in the jails. So one of the lawsuits that we have against the Sheriff's Department is called Rutherford versus Luna. And back in 2022, we went into court because there were just horrific human rights abuses in what's called the Inmate Reception Center, which is the doorway into all of the men's facilities, including Men's Central Jail. And people are only supposed to stay there for less than 24 hours because there's no beds there. So there's no place to sleep, no housing. It's just a processing center. And people were getting stuck there for literally a week at a time, sleeping on the floor. At least one person died. People were with very serious health needs or who were detoxing were chained to benches. I met one person who for 99 hours. And so now we were successful in court and put a really tight time limit there. So people can only be in there for 24 hours. You can't be chained to a bench for longer than 4 hours. You can't stay in these particular cells for 12. And the county was able to comply with those orders and has been in compliance with those orders, thankfully, for about 2 years now by getting the jail population down. So it was around 15,000 when we went into court. Then it went all the way down to about 12,400 or so. I'm worried that as it creeps up past 13,000, that they're going to have a really hard time keeping to those orders. So it's something that we're keeping a very close eye on. We'll try and spread the word, or we will spread the word if we see that the county is having problems complying with those orders and what happens in the Inmate Reception Center. But I think Prop 36 could give the county some problems there. So the county needs to kind of get on the front end of that, talk to the DA, talk to the Sheriff's Department on how they're going to keep the population down, even with Prop 36 charges.
Melissa Camacho, thank you so much for coming in and talking with me today, spending the hour with me.
It's been lovely. Thank you so much.
JusticeLAnow.org if you want more info. I'm going to leave you with a little quote from Paul Robeson, since it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Paul Robeson. Happy birthday, Asha Jordan. And happy birthday to my brother, the mayor of Newark, Mr. Raz Baraka. He says, yes, peace must be won to save the world from the terrible destruction of World War III. Did he say that yesterday? No, he said it many years ago. The Tavis Smiley's up next. He's got an incredible jam-packed show for you as usual, so you're going to want to keep it locked here for that. Don't forget to tap in with me on social media all day long. I'm at DiPrima Radio. The station is at KBLA 1580, and we are everywhere. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Like my mama used to say, history is now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.